I'm really excited to introduce Dr. Christy Hall, Associate Professor and Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs in the ETSU College of Nursing, and Hannah Shipp, who is a practicing nurse and a PhD candidate. They're going to be presenting, as you know, because you signed up, for Icy Cold Regards, Warming Up Workplace Communication Through Artificial Intelligence and Trauma-Informed Practices. I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Hall as one of the College of Nursing leaders who are working along with the College of Nursing Dean, Dr. Dina Evans, to transform the College of Nursing using trauma-informed practices to promote a culture of resilience. I was really excited to learn from Dr. Hall, who's like cutting edge using AI and thinking about communications, and particularly email communications, through trauma-informed lens. So I'm so excited to hear the presentation that Dr. Hall and Hannah Shipp have for us today. So I'm just going to turn quick to one of those bio sketches, because you really going to need to know, like, these guys are coming from, the professions. Dr. Christy Hall is an associate professor and associate dean for the undergraduate programs in the College of Nursing at East Tennessee State University. She's a registered nurse for over 30 years and educator for more than 25. She's taught across all levels of nursing education. She's certified in medical surgical nurses by AACN and as a certified nurse educator by the National League for Nursing. Dr. Hall's scholarship centers on clinical nursing education, faculty development, and the conditions that support effective teaching and learning in academic and practice settings. Her recent work focuses on nurse well-being and trauma-informed leadership, areas shaped by her experiences as an administrator navigating communication challenges and organizational change over the past 4.5 years. Through this lens, she examines how psychological safety, tone, and authenticity influence both faculty and student engagement, with the goal of fostering healthier, more compassionate academic environments. Hannah Shipp, as I said, is a PhD candidate at East Tennessee State University and a practicing bedside nurse. She is certified as a stroke certified registered nurse by AANN, a critical care registered nurse, and a progressive care certified nurse by the AACN. Her research focuses on nursing workforce issues, particularly burnout, workplace violence, and organizational responses through the lens of a novel concept called toxic positivity. She's dedicated to exploring and advancing evidence-based organizational strategies that enhance nurse well-being, support sustainable healthcare workforce, and foster compassionate patient care. So, Chrissy and Hannah, are you ready to take it away?
We're ready.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. And I hope that you all are able to see that. Let me know if you're not able to see that. Well, thanks for having us today. I'm very honored to be here. And I will just say, when Michelle reached out, I thought, gosh, am I really the right person to to talk this talk? And I kind of thought, gosh, everybody's doing this. And Michelle said, I don't think everybody's doing this. And I thought, well, I'll just share what I know and share what I've been doing, and then pull Hannah in, who's a PhD student, to kind of share a little unique perspective on this phenomenon of toxic positivity and how it can impact our communication. So I'll give you all just a minute. If you can, go ahead and join the Menti. I believe as an educator, active engagement is really important. I think it's a lot of fun. These things are pretty easy to use. So if you want to scan the QR code, you can do that, or you can join at menti.com using the code that's provided above. And then what I'd also like for you to do, if you can, on your laptop or on your desktop or on another device, go ahead and have open your preferred AI platform on a different tab or screen, whether that's ChatGPT, Copilot. There are a couple others. We'll give you all just a little bit of time to get joined into the Menti. Looks like most people are there. So we'll go ahead and get started. The code will be available for you on the slide. So if you get kicked off, you should be able to rejoin using the menti.com, the code that's provided there. Okay. All right. So the title of our presentation is Icy Cold Regards, Warming Up Workplace Communication Through Artificial Intelligence and Trauma-Informed Practices. And I thought a lot about that title because the way that we communicate is so important, and we're going to get right into it. But first, I do want to mention that we have no conflicts of interest to declare or anything like that. And the emails that I'm presenting in this are fictional examples that are created solely for the purpose of this presentation, unless that's explicitly stated. And I'll identify those when we get to them. Our learning objectives today are, hopefully at the end of this presentation, my goal is for you to be able to analyze how your professional tone can influence trust and psychological safety. My hope is that you can distinguish between icy tone, toxic positivity, and authentic professional warmth. We hope that you can apply trauma-informed principles supported by AI to revise and repair professional correspondence, and then to implement practical language strategies that enhance credibility, empathy, and human connection in written communication. So let's get started. I love this quote. It's absolutely a favorite. George Bernard Shaw, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it's actually taken place. And you know, how many times you can give a thumbs up on the Menti or a thumbs down on the Menti? How many times have you written an email? You spent a lot of time crafting a communication and you've sent it and you think that was great. You think I am the world's greatest email crafter ever. That could not have gone more beautifully. And then you hear from somebody else on the receiving end who, you may have sent that using the following sign off, best regards, warm regards, cheers, blessings, those kinds of things. But then on the other end, somebody approaches you and they go, I don't know what you meant by that email. I have no idea what you were talking about. That email, made me mad. It ticked me off. But we've all been there, right? We've sent and received emails that have these kinds of sign-offs on the left-hand side, cheers and blessings, please advise. No sign off, it's just your name, or the infamous sent from my Android or iPhone with nothing, and then no sign off. But when you got it, when you received that email, it sounded like it should have been signed off as an icy cold regard or fiery hot, or I'm wishing you all the worst, or curses on you, and I need you to get to the point. We've all done it, right? Or you're too good to sign it to add a sign off. So we've all been there. And it makes sense, because did you know that there are over 375 billion emails that are sent every single day? There are projections of over 420 billion emails to be sent daily by 2028. And just process that for a minute, right? Employees receive an average, all employees receive an average of 117 emails per day that we skim in about 60 seconds. We are also interrupted by chats and emails and meetings upwards of about 275 times per day, or an average of every 2 minutes. And I can assure you that, at least from my position in leadership, there are days when the email is just out of control. I sometimes get over 200. You may have that. And then you take that with chats and texts and meetings, and you think, how am I ever getting anything done? So most of us are working off the clock, or off hours, what you might say. The average worker actually sends or receives 50 messages in the evening. Approximately 20% of people check their emails before noon on a Saturday, and then on Sunday. And then over 5% check again on Sunday evening after 6. Are you all guilty of that? I know that I am definitely guilty of working in email over the weekend. Well, it matters. The fatigue is real here for us. Technology overload impacts our work performance. It impacts our mental health. It can create family and life conflict. It increases our stress. It also can result in lost productivity. So digital tools can help us work more efficiently, but they can increase workload or cognitive overload, stress, etc., leading to negative physical outcomes, including mental exhaustion and loss of sleep. And I'm sure we don't know anything about any of that, do we, in today's work environment? So we have all this stuff that puts us on overload, and then we add in the potential effects of ACEs and trauma. And so, adverse childhood experiences are real. It's, approximately 64% of adults in the United States have experienced at least one ACE, and a little over 17% have experienced four or more. That's pretty significant when you think about it. We know that ACEs are linked to multiple negative health outcomes, including double the risk of depression, and then mental health crises, not mental health illness. Mental health crises have impacted nearly 1 in 10 US adults in the past year, with prevalence among those aged 18 to 29 and among Black and Hispanic individuals. And so a lot of us are dealing with a lot of background noise, right? We have a lot of what we call background noise. So it's likely that we are working with individuals, direct reports, colleagues, peers, who have ACEs in their background. And if you take that background noise and you add in work demands plus technology and communication overload, plus the rapid fire timing of being interrupted every 2 minutes and hundreds of emails upon hundreds of emails, if you do not go through that process or use a trauma-informed lens, there's a potential for psychological harm to other people. Simply stated, people cannot leave their personal lives at the door when they come to work. And I remember hearing that when I was first entering the work environment. We need to leave our personal lives at the door. And there's some truth to that, but it's very hard to remove our brains from context and from background. So we need to be mindful of that. How do we do it? Well, there's some good resources out there. There are 6 guiding principles to a trauma-informed approach that has emerged or come from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in conjunction with SAMHSA. And we are going to talk specifically about bullet point number 1 here, which is safety, and specifically psychological safety. So that's where we're going to spend our time today, on that particular guiding principle. You might be asking, does this really, really matter for us in the workplace? And the answer is yes, it does matter. 47% of workers globally who are seeking new employment actually cite a lack of empathetic leadership in their organization as a reason. Empathy, we know, is a core driver of organizational culture and workplace culture. And empathetic leaders are perceived to be better supervisors, and empathetic employees are considered to be better performers. And then our 4 R's of trauma-informed practices help us to be aware. And that's one thing that we're going to work on in this session is being aware. It's not about perfection. It's about being aware and bringing that awareness to our communication. So there are 4 R's of trauma-informed practices. Realize how trauma affects people, recognize the signs and symptoms of trauma, respond by creating policies, procedures, and practices that reflect knowledge, and then resisting or avoiding re-traumatization. So in that, our communication matters. So you've probably written an email that looks kind of like this. Dear Hannah, the required materials due on September 15th have not yet been received. Submission of these materials is necessary to complete the evaluation process and proceed accordingly. Please submit the outstanding materials as soon as possible. Regards, Christy. So you might look at that and you think, what in the world what's wrong with that email? It's clear, it sounds professional, it's not incivil or abusive. And if you've been in situations where you've sent that or sent something like that, you were probably trying to multitask and do 100 things at a time. And a thought came in your mind and you said, oh gosh, we've got that deadline. I don't have the materials. I'm just going to send this email real quick and get it off of my plate and try to figure out what the heck is going on. We've all done that, right? We have to move. So what happens is, depending on the person, depending on the receiver, it may sound and feel that very innocuous email may sound and feel very different depending on the person who's on the receiving end of that. Unfortunately, we don't know a lot of times who those people are because we communicate with so many people every day. So the message that you send, the message that you intend to send may not always be what that person hears. So a lot of times a very innocuous email may sound to a person ambiguous, cold, impersonal. And then that sort of flags the nervous system like, oh gosh, there's a threat incoming. What have I done? There's a flood of hormones, and then those hormones, those emotions that result from those hormones can steal bandwidth. They can make it very difficult for the person on the receiving end to kind of process information. They may make it difficult for the person to regulate their nervous system. I see that a whole lot with students who have received communications from faculty members, and then they end up in my office in, a lot of tears, and they're not able to kind of process that information. That leaves a lot less working brain to help problem solve or to fix the issue. And then the information that has been delivered may be poorly encoded and poorly retrieved and then often misinterpreted. So like I said, the intent, the message you intended to send may not always be what that person hears. Then what does it look or feel like? Well, in the email, you can see that it was a bit detached. It can sound abrupt or brusque in tone. Sometimes these things can sound passive aggressive. You might be reading something in your mind and it might sound passive aggressive to you, even though that wasn't the intent. It might sound overly formal or a change in formality where you've moved to a first name basis. You were on a first name basis to now you're using formal titles or, Mr. or Miss, whatever. Or things like, how many of you all thumbs up per policy, as previously noted in my prior email? We've all done it, right? Everybody's done it. So on the receiving end, the cognitive load, those flags kind of go up. It activates defense mechanisms. It can create a lot of anxiety and worry, and then people can have difficulty focusing. And what it means then is people may start to think, I'm in trouble. What have I done? There's gonna be some type of a punitive response, and that can create decreased trust and decreased psychological safety. So your responses and interactions with the receivers of your communications further shape their context and their experience. Simply put, the brain does not separate content from context. So what's the difference here in tone? Professional tone acknowledges the issue. There are no real emotions present. It's kind of flat. Very transactional. I need this. Can you get it to me? I need this or I need that or, come see me, whatever. It lacks relational cues. The person is kind of removed from whatever the communication is. And professional can still feel harmful and can unintentionally cause harm. It is never abusive or incivil. It's never overly hostile. And it really isn't ill intended, although that might not always be how it's received. IC is often weaponized or masked professionalism. And we see this a lot using passive aggressive statements, subtle judgment. Have you all ever gotten an email where people have CC'd an entire department or an entire group of people and you think, that was interesting. You think, well, I really don't feel like everybody needed to be included on that email. And these actually might be ill-intended. There may be some motive there, and they may even be aggressive or deceptive, but not always. Toxic positivity is an unrelenting positivity or cheerfulness that really kind of ignores the emotional reality of what the communication is or the communication you've received from somebody. You're kind of ignoring that and just sort of attempting to shift it to positive vibes only. Just, we all know hashtag positive vibes, right? And this kind of comes across as unintentional. It's unintentional invalidation that's disguised as support. I'm here for you. Just keep your chin up. No matter what's going on, keep moving forward. We can do it. It's usually well intended, but it can lead to pretty significant negative outcomes. So take a moment and read this email. I'll give you just a minute to read this email. And then what I'd like for you to do is to tell me what type of communication do you think that is? Is it professional, icy, or toxic positivity? Give you all just a minute to hit your button on your device. All right, so we have 3 professional, 10 icy, 0 toxic positivity. Okay, 11, 12, everybody's going icy. Okay, so icy is the correct response, yes. And what are the things that make that icy? You can see that as a reminder, these are essential components of your role, and your personal circumstances don't really negate the professional responsibilities. I just expect that you do it. I've copied somebody in to keep that person posted, right? I'm copying your supervisor, or I'm copying my supervisor, or whatever. And then you very formal in the dear Miss Jones, warm regards, Dr. Smith. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't know that that sounds like warm regards to me. Okay, so what type of communication is this? Give you just a minute to read the email. Okay, what do you think there? Go ahead and submit your Menti. Okay, give you a few more seconds, get your buttons clicked. So for those of you that selected professional, you're correct, you win. So that is a more professional tone email. It's a little more relational, using a first name basis. Thanks for letting me know about your situation. I acknowledge your circumstances, but it still is important that you kind of meet the expectations that are associated with your role. So there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. It's professional, not in civil, but the receiver of that email still may feel something very different, okay? And then last but not least, process of elimination. Take a look at this communication. Okay, so what do you think here? What type of communication is this? Yeah, process of elimination, right? It's the only one we haven't seen so far. So yeah, this is a great example of what we call toxic positivity, where somebody has shared something with you that may be pretty significant for them, or that's creating quite a bit of emotional response for them. And sometimes we have good intentions with our words, and thanks for sharing what's going on. I'm sure things are just going to work out. This is a temporary challenge. You're so positive. Kind of keep hanging in there, and let's keep going in a good direction. So it kind of glazes over the actual issue, or the real truth behind what's going on with this person, and can kind of create a creative feeling in them that they maybe are devalued, and that it's really not important to you, that really what they're going through isn't important to you. So that is toxic positivity for sure. Okay. So take a minute and read this email. This one is an actual email, so I need to say that. This one is not fictional. Might take a minute to kind of get through all that. So this email, if you received that email, how would you feel? Go ahead and type in your words. How would you feel if you received that email? Yeah, Wally, I see that in the chat. Right, attacked. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, attacked is real big. Yeah, yeah. Nervous. Absolutely nervous. Attacked. Yeah, upset, angry, tense. Yeah, right. Paranoid. Yes, in trouble. Yeah. So these are all really key words, aren't they, about how our nervous system is responding to something like that. I have to tell you that I sent this email. This was an email that I sent very early in my tenure as an associate dean to a group of people and had no training in trauma informed practices, had no training, formal training in leadership, had no training formally in communication strategies and things like that. And I sent this email. So it is extraordinarily embarrassing to say that I did this, but I did. And these words are exactly, that's right, we're all learning and developing. And I will tell you that some of the words that you all see on there are exactly the responses that I got from the people that I sent the email to. So what are things that maybe stand out to you in that email? Is there anything that stands out to you specifically in that email that is of note? You can type it in the chat or you can use the Menti violating First Amendment rights. Yeah. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, calling out to people. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I redact absolutely was like I've got to redact all this. Yeah, terrible. What a horrible communication, right? Anybody else having? Yes, involved everybody. Yeah. Yep, yep. Yes, it's formally aggressive. Yes. I was angry in that moment. Yep. Yes, absolutely. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I owned it, right? Once I came to realize what I had done and the mistakes that I had made. Right. Yes. Do you know what I think is absolutely hilarious here? Is the fact that look at my sign off. Look at my sign off down there. Take care. Like I cared, right? Like I cared. Like I cared in the moment. So you can see why the title of this presentation is Icy Cold Regards, because we often have those standard sign-offs, and this is the way that we may communicate with people. And I think everybody's been in situations, well, most of us have probably been in situations where we end up in this type of communication. You're looped into something, you've had it, you're done, and you just, yikes, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, you just, you bite. So yeah, I mean, absolutely horrible, horrible email. So let's talk about how we can reframe our communications with empathy through a trauma-informed lens, okay? Because that's what the people looked like. Those words were pretty clear. So some of the things that I've learned through my experience with Strong Brain Institute and as an administrator of a very large department here at in the College of Nursing, how to reframe our communications. I've learned the email pause, right? The email pause can be from minutes to days, and I get them every day, just like you guys do. So if I get an email and it triggers a feeling or an emotion in me, I stop. I stop and I may click reply, but then I don't reply. So I can pause on an email. I'm pretty good at it now. It's taken some practice, but I can pause anywhere from minutes to days, depending on what's going on. I try to reframe the situation. What's coming up for this person or these people to make them send this email this way? What is it that's creating this response in them? Sometimes I go downstairs or go down the hall and have a verbal conversation. Hey, I got this email. I just want to make sure I'm tracking on X, Y, and Z. Also use the 4 R's, right? You want to use your recognize, realize, respond, and resist, avoiding that re-traumatization. Don't feed it back to them. You want to add an authentic greeting based on the email purpose. Be sure to spell names correctly. That is something to me that signals that people are not paying attention to you in the moment, is when you sign off your name a certain way and it comes back to you either misspelled or not what's in your email, or your email isn't exactly what your name is. But I think that's really important for us to pay attention to. And add an authentic greeting. And it could be something as personal as, hey there, hi. I use dear colleagues. So you add your greeting based on your email purpose. Then you can use your AI prompts, and we're getting there. We're going to practice next. We're going to practice using AI prompts that are framed by trauma-informed lenses to assist you. You may have multiple iterations of a single email, and you want to be sure that you are redacting personal information and names anytime you're entering information into a chatbot prompt. Redact personal information and names, and just provide some context. That makes a huge difference. And then please avoid generic email sign-offs. They can be very disingenuous. Regards, best, whatever. Depending on the mood, sometimes I sign off with care, and other times I sign off thank you. It just depends on where I am in my headspace and what's the purpose of the email. Who's it going to? What's my audience? So those are some practical suggestions for you to reframe communications. So now we're going to use our AI to help us. It is not a replacement for human interaction, and it's not a replacement for us or our words and our bringing our authentic selves into a communication or a relationship. So here's an email example number 1. I'll give you a chance to take a look at this email, and I'm actually going to copy this. I'm going to paste it over into the chat. So I've in the chat, I've provided you with a copy of this email. How do you feel about that email? On a sliding scale, this email is perfection or chuck it and start over. Where do you feel that this email sits? Okay, so most of y'all are saying to chuck it and go again. Chuck it and start over. Okay. Okay, so about a 4. Yeah, maybe a little less than 4. It's, so-so. Might be comfortable sending it depending on who it's going to, right? Okay. So in your AI platform, what I would like for you to do is to copy the email that I've posted into the chat box in the Zoom and paste it over into your platform. And then the prompt that I would like for you to use is just tell your chatbot to rewrite the email to maintain professional accountability while increasing warmth and psychological safety. Don't remove expectations or deadlines, and then avoid excessive friendliness or minimizing language. So I'll give you just a minute to kind of do that. And we'll do a live rewrite. So that email is actually something that we probably all have sent. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but depending on the receiver of that email, you may make that person feel watched instead of supported. And so that's kind of a key difference here. So give me a thumbs up when you've been able to at least give that an attempt with your AI platform, either on the Menti or in your in the Zoom. Thumbs up. So we've got some thumbs up going. Okay, what did you all get? Does anybody feel like comfortable sharing what their rewrite was? Would anybody like to share? Okay, don't hear anybody. Let's see. Oh, I've got a chat down there. Let's see if I can get to it. Okay, Wally, thanks for sharing. As we move forward, touch base, staying connected is important. Yeah, timely responses. Yeah, yeah, I'm open to talking. Yeah, value your contributions. Yes. Yeah. So what are you noticing here? Anybody noticing anything? Yeah, they are. What are you all noticing? Kind of sounds the same, right? Everybody's kind of got the same kind of a pat response from the chatbot. And so what we can't do is we can't just copy and paste our email responses over into our email and then send it. Because if somebody's going to get that same response, then it very quickly becomes not you, right? So now let's take it a little bit, let's take a little bit different approach and let's do more of a trauma informed. That was more of a neutral response. So now let's make the AI chatbot we're asking it not to be nicer. We want it to be aware. We want it to be neurologically aware, trauma informed. So use that same email prompt and ask your AI platform to rewrite using trauma informed principles. And let's see what we get there. I'll give you just a moment to do that. Okay, what are you guys getting this time? Getting anything different? Yeah. Any difference? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so here's what I got when I entered this into. So the original email you can kind of see is professional, might be a little bit icy, and the brain kind of hears, okay, your situation really doesn't matter. We're watching you, and don't let this impact your work, right? Depending on the person, that's what it might sound like. So after the neutral prompt, you can see that it moves a little bit more toward professional, less icy, but it really lacks empathy and it's a little bit detached. So the brain might hear you matter, but other people matter more. The group is important. So just be sure that your work doesn't really suffer. Okay. So that's what I got. After the second prompt, when I put this I use ChatGPT, that's what I use. This is what my response was here. I appreciate you letting me know what you're navigating. While responsiveness is important, I want to be thoughtful about how we support communication expectations during this time. Thumbs up if you guys got anything remotely close to that. That's a more trauma-informed response. And what the brain hears then is, I care about you as a person. We hope I care about you as a person. I want to know how to best support you, but the expectations are still fairly clear, right? They're still clear. Okay, so it looks like you guys got a similar response, which is important. Okay, next email is a little bit different. So I want you all to read this email. Give me a thumbs up when you've read it. Okay, thank you. Thumbs up. Yep. So I'm going to give you some context here for this one. So you have a team member who has recently returned from leave due to a personal crisis. Their performance has dipped slightly, and you have to address it. Okay, so that's your context. So what assumptions did you make about this email? Does anybody have any assumptions you have here? Oftentimes I'll hear things like, well, we assumed that this person, yeah, they're stressed. Yep, they're stressed. Yep. Maybe they're not ready to come back to work. Maybe they return too early, right? Those kinds of things. Those are all assumptions that we tell ourselves in our head when we hear what's going on. Yep, came back too soon, all those types of things, right? So we're going to rewrite this with a trauma-informed and a brain-connected prompt. So I want you to rewrite that email. Let me see if I can get the email for you, copied and pasted. So here's the email in the chat. And what I want you to do is to take that one and copy it and paste it over into your chat bot. And this time I want you to rewrite that email to reduce perceived surveillance and threat. I want you to strengthen partnership, and you can give it whatever language that tell your chatbot, use whatever language you want to tell it, and see what kinds of results we can get. Y'all getting any good results? I hope they're all good. Hopefully it did what you asked it to do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you want to check in. Yeah. 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 So it's about connection. Those are the things that I'm seeing, right? Rewriting. So this is my before and my after, but I tweaked it. I will tell you that it took me 7 rewrites to get to this point. So I took that email, put it in, and I'm going to share with you the prompts that I used to get here. So I know they've involved a lot of personal challenges. It takes effort. I'm really glad to see you back. Let's reconnect. My intent is to support you. And then here I did use with care because I do care. I care about this person. But it took me 7 rewrites to get those exact words, and I still tweaked it. But you want to rewrite your emails until it sounds like you, until it sounds like something that's authentically would come from you as an individual. So you can't just copy and paste and use a pat response. That's not going to work. So which version of that email would you like to have on your worst day at work? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Most of us would prefer to get that second communication, the after, right? On our worst day, especially on our best day too, right? Okay. So these were the prompts that I used. I entered the following prompts into ChatGPT to get this. So I told it to exactly do the prompt that I gave you. Please rewrite this email. And then I moved immediately to caring because I want my faculty and students to know that I do care about them. I want that to be present. You can see that I told it I did not like the response that I got right after that. No. And I told it, no, let's try again. Please craft an email response that aligns with my leadership tone, including trauma-informed principles. And you can see again, I still didn't like what I got. I said, this does not sound like me. And I put it in capital letters with an exclamation point. So ChatGPT said, I know it wanted to say I'm sick and tired of you, but it didn't. It said, I can give you a slightly warmer version that still sounds like you, just 5% softer, not 30. And then my response was, please warm it up. So then it said, if you want, we can dial it toward firm but deeply steady or quietly compassionate, depending on the history that you have with Jonathan. And I said, yes, quietly compassionate. Okay. Now, obviously, we wouldn't have names in there. And then then the last prompt that I entered was this employee had a personal crisis. I did not enter personal information, but just this person had a crisis. And that was the final result that I got. Okay. So you may have multiple iterations of your emails. What kinds of prompts did you all use? Did you just use one? Did anybody have any specific word or phrase that you used in this particular rewrite? We have a few minutes and one more slide. Use my brand. It's one of my favorite things about artificial intelligence is that it will get to know you and the language that you use and the words that you use and the phrases that you use. And it kind of gets to know who you are in your particular leadership style or your management style or your working style. It kind of picks up on that, and then many times, which makes it more efficient and quicker. So you may not always have 7 rewrites, you may have 2 rewrites. And I don't use it every single time. I want to be clear, this is not something that I use for every single email response. There are many times that I will craft my own email and send it. But there are times, I think, when situations present that you need maybe a little bit of support and just kind of checking to make sure that tone is okay and that trauma-informed principles are really coming through. So in summary, every single email that we have is an opportunity to activate a threat or a connect with whoever is on the receiving end. Most of us really are not cold or cruel. We're just overwhelmed. Most of your employees are just overwhelmed. So AI really is a mirror to help us identify those emotional blind spots and can help us improve our efficiency. You can use whatever prompts you want to help get this crafted in your voice, to whatever version that is. And nobody's perfect, and you will mess up every now and again. I just messed up last week. I had a terrible day Friday and had some communications that went out that sounded less than stellar. The less than trauma informed, they weren't ugly, but I thought after I sent them, I thought I probably could have done that better, right? So I'm human, you're human, and nobody's going to get it 100% of the time perfect. So that concludes our presentation. And you are welcome to ask questions. The references are provided in the slides. I will see, I don't know that there are any questions. Let's see. You can stop sharing. And that is all we have.
Christy, while people formulating their questions and doing a lot of applause, I just really want to thank you because I was the one that asked you to do this, and it was like, beyond, you really captured, your courage to, say, hey, we mess up, and then share your strategies, because I think, some of what you're sharing is really hard for some of us to do because we say, oh, I'm busy, too bad they didn't get the right message, right? Like, but,
Yeah.
I have 200 emails, and, that giving us that message of slowing down and really just pausing, like some of those strategies, you don't have to do, a perfect email every time, but even using some of your strategies, I think, thinking about who's getting it, and then the AI to balance that accountability and warmth, like that, I think all of us really struggle with as leaders. Like you need to make sure that folks are being accountable. On the other hand, you don't want to be mean and nasty and just create that threat environment. So I really appreciate how you weave those strategies in.
Well,
I want to highlight one question I saw in the chat from
okay,
Elizabeth.
sure.
Could you
Yeah.
quickly address how to respond to an email that you receive that is written in a poor tone?
So that's a great question, Elizabeth. I'm assuming you mean that you've received like a nasty gram. I could love nasty grams, and of course, in leadership, I wouldn't know anything about that, right? We get them, right? We get them. We get them from students. I get them from students a lot. That would be a time when I would definitely implement every strategy that I've provided on this presentation. I definitely pause. And what I typically do is let me be 100% transparent here in that sometimes I will put in ChatGPT, I will tell it exactly what I would like to say to the person and tell it to correct. And I do sometimes include words that are probably not appropriate for this presentation.
One thing
Yeah,
I was just going to say, one of the first things you learn is write that email that you want to get out and then
right.
delete it. But not what
Yeah,
I've learned is you can write it. You don't have to delete it. You just copy it and put
right.
it in your AI.
Right. And what I do, Elizabeth, is I actually will take the email and obviously redact any information that needs to be redacted. So if there's an email communication that has people's names or certain, information that needs to be redacted, I will copy the email from the person, paste it onto a Word document, and I will redact that. I will then take that email, copy that from the Word document, and throw it into my AI platform. I use ChatGPT. I will throw it over there and I will put in ChatGPT, I will say, please tell this person to take a long walk off a short cliff. I am angry about this. I am not sure how to respond, blah, 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 whatever it is that I have going through my mind, or say this, tell them to suck it up. I've actually done things like that because really that's what we want to say sometimes. You can't say that to students. Well, you can, but I recommend not doing that, lest you end up in trouble, right? So tell it exactly what you want it to do, to say, and then say, I need help crafting an email response that is framed in through trauma-informed principles. And it will tell you, I mean, I can't begin to tell you how much I love ChatGPT because it'll say, okay, Christy. I mean, it knows my first name. Okay, Christy, it sounds like this is a tough situation. Let's do this together. And I'm like, yeah, I've got a partner that I can do this with, right? I've got somebody that's right there beside me that I can make sure that I'm not being exactly the person that's in my head at that moment. So do it that way. And like I said, it may actually take you a few iterations. You have to double check these. It's going to make mistakes. It's going to miss context. It's going to screw up because it's a computer. It's not you. So you definitely want to, once you get to a result that you're satisfied with, take that, copy it from the platform, move it onto that Word document, and then recraft it from there. Just be sure that you don't sign off with a disingenuous email sign off. I'm really, really in tune with that. That's really important, I think. That's how I would do it. Thank you for that question. I know it looks like we're out of time. I don't know if anybody has any other questions.
There's some more thank yous in the chat, Christy, but
Right.
again, reminders of the greetings and the sign-offs, giving that some thought, not just that, signature that everyone gets, that makes that more relational tone. I think that was a really good reminder too for us.
Yes, yes. Well, if you all have any questions, feel free to reach out. Michelle knows how to get a hold of me. It's been a pleasure to be with you all today.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you both for putting in the work and bringing this for, I'm sure there's going to be conversations that happen after this and other people getting a relationship with their ChatGPT. So really appreciate it, Christy. And
You
thank
all are
you.
more than welcome. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.